What's up everyone, Be The Installer here. We've got all kinds of new TVs coming out right now, which means there's a lot of great deals that can be had on last year's models and some on the new ones already. I'm gonna start with a few OLED TV deals that I found and then talk about my favorite QLED TVs, then the TVs that I have in my home and why I chose them, onto some ridiculously large screens and things coming up in the future. And I'm also gonna go over some comments and questions that people have asked me about at the end. But first, I'm gonna talk about something that nobody asked about, a small OLED TV. I have in the past gotten people asking me what is a quick entry price or OLED TV that's really inexpensive, and I just found this deal here, 48-inch LG B4 for only 600 bucks. That's really significantly cheap because I mean if you go on their site and you look at some of these other ones, there's an LG C4 which is great, but that's $1,100. I mean, there's an S90D, I think it's QD OLED here, 48-inch. That's $1,000. So those are really good OLED TVs that I would recommend. But at the same time, for 600 bucks, this B4 only has 2 HDMI ports, I believe, that are 4K 120, but it should still have everything like really awesome infinite contrast. So if you're in a dark room, bright room, whatever, it's going to be pretty awesome. I imagine most people would use this for gaming or just in their own personal bedroom or whatever, but I just wanted to list it because it's a really good deal. $600 to get an OLED TV, up to $1,000, $1,100 for these other two. And I'm going to compare those two now because that's something that I get questions about a lot, which is, should I choose like a Samsung QD OLED or the LG C series? We kind of always talk about this and it's kind of a difficult thing to respond to because I do love this QD OLED, Samsung's S90D from last year. It's down to $21.99 for 77-inch and it's 65-inch is $13.99. So really low price for a fantastic TV. I actually have a 77-inch. And then the LG C4 is the exact same price at 65-inch and 77-inch. So how I would differentiate the two is they're both great for gaming, great features. This one's not quite as bright though. The S90D is going to be brighter and it's going to have a little bit better colors. And to be honest, I think ratings.com, for example, has this S90D listed better in almost every manner, except for the fact that it doesn't have Dolby Vision. So Samsung, of course, does not have Dolby Vision. So whether you're watching Dolby Vision movies or Dolby Vision gaming or whatever it is, the Samsung won't have it. And it's basically the only downside. But you can't go wrong really either way. And they're both OLED TVs. And I like them typically better than QLED TVs in most situations. So I don't know if that helps or hurts or what, but I'd like to hear you guys' comments. C4, S90D, would you get either one of those? And again, I'm choosing this over the S95D, for example, because it's another $800. Now it's going to be better. It does have that glare-free finish that some people may or may not like, but for another $800, it might be worth it just to get this. This was like $3,700, so this is also a discount. I'm going to talk about this in a second, but you could, get something like this Q990D soundbar system and, this 65 or 77-inch S90D for a similar price of getting this 77-inch S95D. So, it might be worth it just get a soundbar and the middle tier because that S90D is still fantastic. Now, if you're looking to get more of like a QLED TV that's in the same kind of quality or close to, but less expensive than those OLED TVs, I really would look to Hisense and TCL. Right here, I have various Hisense TVs, specifically seeing this 75-inch U8N, which is $12.99, and I love this TV in the house. I thought this one looked as close to OLED quality, but had great brightness, great gaming specs, and for $12.99 at a 75-inch, it's like $800 less expensive than those other two OLEDs, and it's another $1,000 less or close to it than the top QD OLED. So you're getting a lot of great quality with this Hisense U8N. And if you jump down to the U7 series, which is something that I got my dad for Christmas for their like downstairs living room, which they absolutely love, you're talking $887 for a 75-inch, and then you'd have to compare if you want to get a 65-inch of the U8N, which is a little bit better contrast, a little brighter, or if you're good with the U7, a little bit larger screen, 75-inch, $887. The 75-inch have their ADS Pro panels, so I like those because they have better viewing angles for like living rooms. So I would go with the 75-inch, which is, an easy win if you want to get a little bit bigger TV as well. But if you're going 65-inch, 55-inch, they can get them a little bit less expensive. This one, U7, only 700 bucks. Even a U6, 60 hertz panel, not quite as good, but $600. I'd opt for getting the U7 or the U8 great. And I was going to talk about TCL as well because I think that they have some really awesome QLED TVs. They've been going bigger and bigger each year. I had this Q6 98-inch. Right now it's $1,500 for a 98-inch TV. So it's really hard to beat that because this at this size had a 120 hertz panel and I thought it was really nice. I mean, it's not the brightest TV in the world, but for your typical living room or for most people, you guys are going to love this TV. It's pretty good. And they actually have a newer version, this QM6K. I have not reviewed it myself, but I've seen it at CES and it did look better, brighter, had that matte finish. So, you know, if it's in a living room, it's going to knock down reflections a little differently. For all intents and purposes, it's upgraded and it is a mini LED. So a lot of benefit, and it's only $600 more than the one I just showed you. So if you're looking at 98-inch and you're saying, hey, should I get this at $2,200 or the older one at $1,500? That's a choice for you. You can get a pretty nice soundbar plus this TV for that $2,000. But I would imagine that this is definitely going to be better, upgraded. A lot of people made videos about it, Stop the FOMO and others. So check out some of their videos. And then there's also a QM7K 85-inch for $2,000. So I want to get one of these QM7Ks because I didn't review it last year, and they have a 98 and a 115-inch this year. So I'm hoping to get that 115 and show you guys how ridiculously large that can be in your living room. But this is mini LED, brighter, better, $2,000. You'd have to make that decision. Do you want a brighter and better 85-inch or do you want a 98-inch QM6K, which is going to be bigger but not quite as good? And that brings me to the Sony X90L. This I think is going to be retired in 2025 because Sony has just come out with the new Bravia 5, which is going to be a little bit better than this mini LED. They have a Bravia 7, Bravia 9 we're going to talk about in a minute, but this has been kind of a staple for the last couple years. Now it's, you know, it is 2 years old at this point, but it's $1,500. So it had been $2,000. It had been even more expensive than that. So if you're looking for a low priced Sony TV that has great tone mapping and Dolby Vision and all that, this is the one. But those are some of the QLED TVs that I'd recommend, whether it be Hisense, TCL, this Sony, and they're big, but you know, really for my house, they're still not big enough. Maybe the 115-inch TCL QM7K might be, but people have asked what I have in my house, and I think that's a good way to let you guys know what I think is quality because I've had two different projectors in my house. You guys know I have a 132-inch screen currently up in my living room, and I have the Hisense PX3 Pro in there right now. And I've also had the AWOL Vision 3500 Pro here, which is more expensive, and I like this, it's great. But the thing is that this Hisense actually has the Google TV operating system, which just makes it really easy for me to use. And I got it on this website right here, projectorscreen.com. You guys can check out this and other screens and things like that, because one of the reasons that I love projectors, but have having a little bit of a hard time lately is because my screen is not that bright and it's in a more of a bright room. So when I had a 120-inch screen, it was actually a Fresnel screen that had a higher gain, so it was brighter in my living room. But currently I have an ALR screen that's more of a theater screen, and so in my living room it makes these projectors a little darker. And for me, I'm actually going to be looking at projector screens for that reason, and this site has all kinds of cool stuff on it. So if you go to projectorscreen.com, you can see all these. I'm going to talk to them about getting a Fresnel screen. I just need to get one that's 132 or 150-inch because I have that space. I don't want just a 120. That's how greedy I am. But Hisense, AWOL Vision, those are the two projectors that I've used in my living room. And I would say that the AWOL Vision one is a little bit brighter here, but it doesn't have the best operating system, and therefore I have to use like an Amazon stick. And then you also have this Hisense that has the Google TV operating system that I love and makes it a lot easier. So that's what I have in my living room. Now, in my bedroom, I have had the 77-inch A95L from Sony for the last 2 years now. And it sounds like that's going to have to stay for this year as well, because Sony came out with their TV lineup, and the one downside was that they are not going to have a new 77-inch Bravia 8 Mark II, which is the next gen over this A95L. So for me, no, I am not going to go from a 77-inch A95L and downsize to a 65-inch Bravia 8 Mark II. That's just going to be tough for me to do because I can't see it. It's too far away. It's like 15, 14 feet away from our headboard, and it's just like if I'm going to watch TV at night, I want to be able to see what's going on. So I really like this TV. It's fantastic. It's amazing with regards to its brightness, tone mapping, processing, all the different things. When I watch, you know, crappy YouTube TV, it upscales it fantastically. All the different apps upscale really well. And of course it has Dolby Vision and all that can game. But the problem is that this is $4,800, and I looked up just for the sake of it what a 77-inch LG G4 was, and that's only $3,000. And I really like this too, and it fits really tight on the wall and looks beautiful. So I liked an A95L slightly better, but I did say that this is probably one of the the best TVs of the year last year. And so to save $1,700, I'm down. That's a pretty good price. And the same thing goes to the S95D. Now this has that glare-free finish, but if you're in your bedroom or somewhere where there's not a lot of glare, you don't even see that anyways. So if you didn't like the fact that it has this glare-free finish for a premier TV, good news, bad news, you can watch this in the dark. Bad news is all of the top QLEDs from Samsung are going to have this. So Samsung just released all the information on their QLED specifically, and their QN90F is going to have the glare-free finish along with their 8K top model, the 990F. But both of them look really great, and they got some new features. They're awesome. They got new AI stuff going on, a lot of cool things you can check out with the Samsung. And I have a video coming up with regards to the whole Samsung product lineup, so look for that. But I just think for $3,000, you'd have to consider that over almost a $5,000 very similar QD OLED. The only thing that the Samsung doesn't have is that Dolby Vision, and it also does have that glare-free finish, where this Sony has the traditional anti-glare of an OLED, which looks fantastic, and it's 9.3 out of 10 with regards to its anti-reflectiveness. But then another question I get always is QLED versus OLED, and if you had to really put up a couple of the best QLED OLEDs last year, probably the best QLED in 2024 was the Bravia 9, and it's going to carry over into 2025. And that 85-inch Bravia 9 mini LED TV that is really nice is now $4,200, and the 77-inch QD OLED is $48. So it's $600 less to get a larger mini LED. So a lot of people that have a big living room with a lot of glare or has a lot of ambient light in there may choose the 85-inch Bravia 9 mini LED as a really, really great TV. It was the best mini LED maybe ever. Still rather expensive for an 85-inch, but I think that this goes to show that this is one of the best TVs. Not a great deal necessarily, but a great TV. And if you wanted to look at a deal and say, well, what could I get for that same size? It's tough to argue that the 85-inch U8N for $1,699 wouldn't be something you'd consider right there. That is less than half the price of that Sony Bravia 9. And anyone that's sitting here liking Sony would say that this Hisense isn't going to be as good with regards to its calibration, with its upscaling, probably isn't as good as tone mapping. It might blow out highlights here or there. All those things might be the case, but at the same time, most people aren't going to notice them. And to have the ability to buy like 2 of these for the price of that one Bravia 9, you have to consider, is this something that you want to save some money on and get another soundbar? Something like the Sonos Arc Ultra soundbar for $1,000. Would you get the Hisense and this and have much better sound system? Or would you prefer to just get the Sony TV? Pretty good speakers, but definitely not as good as adding a Sonos Arc. And if I was going to get a Sony, I would probably end up just getting it with like the Bar 9, which is its own soundbar system that works really well hand in hand, uses the TV for part of the sound system, also has all the menus and everything. Looks really awesome, sounds really awesome, but much more expensive than getting something like that Hisense. A couple of other questions that I've gotten asked. Someone did ask me what I think of the Samsung 98-inch Q80C QLED versus the LG 98-inch QNED 89T. I don't think I've seen either one of these TVs in person, to be honest, but my take would be that I have had really good luck with the Samsung 98-inch TVs. I think they look really awesome, and I have not had the best of luck with regards to the QNED TVs. So my gut would be telling me to get the Samsung 98-inch here, but really I would consider getting a TCL as well. TCL has been killing it with large TVs, so for me, I would even consider the QM7K or even the QM6K. They may not be quite as bright as this Q80C, but it's going to be less expensive, so I would consider those. Someone asked another general comment, why in the world does anyone need more than 2,000 nits of brightness? I just want to make sure you understand that people typically talk about that being peak brightness for specular highlights. So when you have 2,000 nits peak brightness and small highlights, it makes the movie or the show or whatever look like it's supposed to look, creator's intent, really bright suns, but still has good tone mapping around it, good highlights, but still can see great shadow detail. You don't need 2,000 nits of full screen brightness. That's absolutely true. But you would like to have peak brightness to be up there. So if you're buying kind of like mid-tier or low-end LED TVs, they're just not going to have that HDR impact at all. And that's why some of these QD OLED and OLED TVs look so awesome. Even if they're only 1,000 nits, but they have great tone mapping and shadow detail, it can have a remarkable difference on how bright the TV looks. Even something like that 48-inch B4 I was talking about, 600, 700, 800 nits of peak brightness is going to look awesome compared compared to like a similarly priced LED TV that won't be able to get there. Someone mentioned with regards to the new Sony lineup that it would probably be hard to see the differences between the Bravia 8 Mark II and the A95L. One, I do think that the Bravia 8 Mark II will be rather expensive for its size, and that's something else someone had said, but also it is brighter. It is going to have better highlights, significantly brighter highlights. I think they said 25 to 50% brighter than the Bravia 8, more color volume, brighter than the A95L as well. But if you're not going to have them sitting next to each other, you won't notice that. And both of them look so nice that I don't think it's going to be something to worry about. If you need 77-inch, you're going to have to get the A95L or a different brand like I told you. So that's that. And I think both of them are going to be awesome. To my earlier point about the LG B4, someone had gotten a 65-inch LG B4, saved them $500 off the C4, and coming from a 55-inch 2015 HD Samsung TV, it was another whole world of difference. Movies and PS5 games look awesome. So just so you know, if you're looking to buy a new TV, they're going to look so much better than something 10 years ago. And I just think that purchasing that LG B4, great idea. And it's so much less expensive than a lot of TVs for being an OLED still that it's a great buy. Someone asked, as an owner of an 83-inch Sony A90J, I want to upgrade. What should I get? I would just have to say that that 83-inch A90J is a unique product. They don't currently have a whole lot of things that I would recommend. There's not going to be a Bravia 8 Mark II in that size. There's not an A95L in that size. I personally wouldn't go to QLED in that size unless you're going to get the Bravia 9, but there's a pretty big difference in the two TVs. So what I would say is if you're going to upgrade to that, maybe wait until next year for an RGB Bravia 10, Bravia 9 Mark II. I've heard people comment that maybe one of those will be the name for the new RGB technology, because they'll have that maybe the 100, 115 inch. But I think that's where your upgrade lies for the A90J 83-inch folk that have that. I had that TV. It's amazing. I think I would just stick with it, to be honest. You don't need to upgrade that yet. And then lastly, I'm just going to give you guys this. Sony did not come out with a new 77-inch or 83-inch QD OLED, you know, tandem stack panel, whatever you want to call it. They said that they think that QD OLED is the future with regards to OLED versus that stacked panel for the WOLED. That's something that we should debate. What do you guys think? Are you disappointed that there's no 77-inch Bravia 8 Mark II? Do you think they're going to have something come out later in the fall or maybe early next year for this? And the same thing goes for the 83-inch. Would you have preferred to have a Sony flagship OLED TV, even if it's that stack panel 83-inch or larger? I personally probably would like to see more high-end Sony OLED TVs at the larger sizes. A lot of people comment that they're going smaller while everyone else is going larger. I think that RGB TV will be awesome in 2026 or late 2025 if it comes out at all. But you know, that's something to consider. And I'd like to hear you guys' comments. What of these TVs are something you're going to buy? What are your disappointments? What are you excited for? Are any of these TVs something you're going to purchase now, or are you just going to wait more toward the summer or Black Friday to get a new TV? Let me know in the comments, and all the products will be linked in the description below. We earn a small commission on that at no cost to you guys, so we appreciate you guys supporting the channel. And hit me up with any questions. Let's start the discussion below, and we'll see you guys in the next video.